Welcome to the Reigning Ducks Capital Nissan podcast right here in, the KYKN studios. Guys, Sweet Jared with me. Brandon, Jeff Morgan here. What a weekend. I mean, I don't even know what to say. We've been talking about this for a while, and it's just like there's so many things that have come up. It's crazy how I don't even know what the words to say right now. I'm actually at a loss for words, which is really stunning for me. I typically am not, but it's just like there's a word that I'm looking for that just won't seep into my mind. So, Jerry, what do we got here?
There was a lot of excitement. That's the thing that this playoff was going to generate, right? Excitement no matter what. It did do that, but now there's just a ton of backlash on, did they pick the right teams? Did the right stuff happen? And I think it's all BS. I thought they had the right teams, but I have a little bit of a problem with the home team. Home team won all games. I think back to our picks last week, right? We're going through the picks, and we were 2-2. But the two that we did get right were handily, in our favor.
Well, we picked Tennessee, but who else did we pick that lost? I thought we had Penn State, Georgia.
No, you guys said, Ohio State. You had Tennessee beating Ohio State.
Yeah, I think that was the only.
And you had Indiana beating Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we stand corrected. That was a long time ago, Jerry.
The interesting thing about that Indiana-Notre Dame game was Indiana looked physically outclassed in that game.
Yeah.
You're on the road. Indiana's not used to that. They're both cold weather teams, so you can't blame it on that. We get in there, but Indiana just looked physically outclassed.
And I think that you can go with the other team that looked outclassed, and that was Tennessee. I did not see that coming, but Ohio State just ripped them apart, and in every facet of the game. The wide receivers for Ohio State had phenomenal games. Missed the bell. Howard, quarterback, he had a great game. I mean,
he did. He played well.
You have to do that. And I think they wanted to come out and they wanted to prove something, and now they're chirping, and now they're going to want to do it again in the Rose Bowl for the rematch.
Yeah. What I look at in that Tennessee-Ohio State game was they were missing Sampson, the leading rusher in the SEC. He played 2 snaps. Dante Thornton, their number one receiver, played
former Duck.
Former Duck. He played very sparingly, and they just couldn't get an offense going, and that left the defense out. Pretty much, they were out on the field the entire first half.
Yep.
Pretty much, and they just got gassed. And you cannot play a team of Ohio State's caliber on the offensive side of the ball and leave your defense out there with nothing, no real breaks. When it looked like they started to play, when Tennessee looked like they started to play better, was when they went to the up-tempo, fast-paced. Yes. Nico started doing some runs, some quarterback runs, and kind of looked like they took a page out of Oregon's playbook from back in the fall, where they didn't know where it was going to go. Was he going to throw the ball? Was he going to run? And he's a big dude. I mean, he's 6'6", big guy. And it just looked to me like that was maybe the offense that they should have stuck with, and then they came back out after the half, and they went back to throwing the balls. They just found themselves in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7 continuously. I don't think they had very many short third down plays, and so out comes the defense again, and they just get gassed, and you just can't do that against Ohio State.
Tempo was the key to that game for Tennessee. That's the only reason Tennessee kept it as close as they did. They looked physically beaten. Their defensive line, which I hadn't seen Tennessee, and last week we talked about it. You guys thought that I was looking forward to seeing these guys, and I'm just like, but
right.
The offense of Ohio State beat them down pretty handily. The tempo made a difference for sure. Kept Ohio State's defense on their heels a little bit. So, hey, looking at our matchup later on, we're going to have to go a little bit of tempo, and we're going to have to be very aware. And I think that tempo helps out too. They can't pin their ears back and just charge our quarterback all the time. Right. And that's what Ohio State. That's the biggest adjustment Ohio State made after the Duck game is they're sending those guys. JT Tuimalo, something like that.
Tui
No, I
Mololau.
nailed it. I got it. But those guys are beasts, and they release them now. So we're going to have a hot read. We're going to have to get out of Dylan's hands quickly, but I think tempo negates a lot of that because you keep them on their heels a little bit. Don't let them get set.
Well, and Stein's offense is set up for that type of, I mean, the little quick hitters, the out routes, the quarterback to the running back relief valve, so to speak. That's Oregon's offense, and that matches up well against that type of defense where if they do want to pin their ears back and come at us, all right, throw it. We'll throw Whittington out there or James out there, line up, stack the receivers on the sideline and just out to the sideline and quick hitters, and we'll wear them down that way.
Yeah, they're really going to have to be on the lookout for those linebackers coming in because that's going to be that's what killed Indiana and that's what killed Tennessee. And you're exactly right. They've got to throw that thing out into the flat, get your backs in space so they can create a play. And I think it's open for 10 yards every time. It's wide open. And when they shut that down, that's going to open up the running game and it's going to create all sorts of other offensive opportunities for the Ducks. Yeah. And so I think that's really hopefully they do that, and Stein is able to create that, and Dylan is able to read it because that's the big key. And plus, Dylan's a little dude, and so he's got to be able to just flip that thing up and over those big defensive linemen in order to get into the hands of Jordan James or Whittington.
Absolutely. I don't know if we've talked about this too much, but in another group of my buddies, they hate that pass out to the sideline, and then you've got.
Do too.
Okay, so but getting that out of your hand quickly. That negates all those big dudes on their front seven. You get it out there and let the skill guys take off with it, and then you're playing 3-on-3 or 2-on-2 out there, and it's different. And it gets out. I felt like that's what the Indiana quarterback needed is a couple easy completions. And gosh, they were just sitting him back there as a lame duck. He's just in there, oh my gosh, they letting him do it again. Why aren't they getting it out his hand quicker? Where was the screen pass? Where was anything to negate some of that just pinning the ears back and just dead rushing? I'm just like, my goodness.
Yeah.
That was a trip to me. That was the biggest thing that I saw. And I was like, they're not even using some of their scheme. They're just physically getting beat.
Right.
What I would like to see, maybe they mix this in when Cristobal's team went to Ohio State at the Horseshoe and they beat the Buckeyes. They ran that thing side to side to side. They cut off the linebackers with their tight ends, and they had such a great offensive game plan that there were things open all day long. They could not stop it. And so you wonder, and plus it tires out the defensive line. And so they're substituting and all those things. They're exhausted. And so, you have to wear those guys down. Yeah. By the way, just wanted to give a shout out to other sponsors, Green Acres Landscape, GA at Home, Advantage Heating and Air and Electrical, and of course, John Strow, Mid-Valley Media, producing this whole thing for us. He's behind the scenes. You can't see him, but he makes all this stuff work, which is fantastic. If I had the bell here, I'd ring that thing for him. Doggone it.
So, yeah, you got Penn State's playing, who's their next?
Boise State.
Boise State.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame's playing Georgia. And Carson Beck isn't playing. They've already said he's.
So you got Gunnar Jackson back there, who pretty much
Stockton.
got knocked out. Oh, Stockton.
Stockton, yeah.
Gunnar Stockton. I don't know why I said Jackson. Anyways, I say a lot of things I don't mean.
It's easy to do.
That sounds like my house at night. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
All right, Stockton it is. We'll go with it.
So Penn State SMU. What'd you guys think of that game?
I thought they were outclassed. I thought SMU was outclassed. Penn State's traditional Big Ten team and
but they were in the game. SMU, Jennings, the quarterback for SMU, just threw pick. He had 2 back-to-back pick sixes, which, okay, you do that. You're down 14-zip just because of that. You're done. It is over. Now your psyche is toast, and you're not confident in anything as a quarterback.
You're on the road. You're a warm weather school playing at Penn State, minus or whatever degree it was.
It was cold. Cold.
But I didn't feel that they were physically outclassed in that game. The way the previous game with Indiana and Notre Dame, I thought, man, there's a difference in physicality here. There's a difference in playmaker. When I looked at that game, there were just mistakes, way too many mistakes made. And once you make that many mistakes early on, Penn State was able to alter their game plan. Right. Now you're ground and pound. You're slowing this game down. Yep. You're able to beat these guys because you were spotted 14 points.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about that before we started. It was take those 14 points off the board. So they scored 38, 31, 24. So put those 24 or 14 points back on the board for SMU,
Got a tight ball game.
and you're tied. So, yes, self-inflicted wounds definitely killed that game for the SMU Mustangs.
Fourth game we didn't talk about, Texas Clemson.
Texas they came out running. And I thought they were going to dominate, and then all of a sudden, here comes Clemson.
Yeah.
They fought back, and kudos to to Debo for getting his team back on the field and ready to play in the second half, and they made a game of it. I mean,
They made some good adjustments, and
Yeah.
Sarkisian, I'm still not sold on
I'm
him as
not
a coach. He didn't make adjustments. They made a game of it and stuff. Texas still won handily, but that was the most competitive game of the weekend.
Yep, for sure.
well, that's going to cost Sarkisian. The further he gets into the playoffs, I mean, Arizona State, if he doesn't manage things well, I mean, Dillingham is going to shred him apart. I mean, just because he knows how to run an offense and make changes.
And it's relentless.
It is.
Yeah.
And he's going to keep slinging that ball down the field. And if their defense can even stop Texas, I mean, they actually have a shot, I believe, in knocking them off.
I mean, I wasn't impressed with Texas. I mean, they played well this year to only lose, twice to Georgia. And so they go into this game and they have their plan. I'm just not a fan of Quinn Ewers as their quarterback. He stands back in the pocket, I think, too long, holds onto the ball, and just not a fan of his. I'd really like to see Arch Manning put in there because he's a runner.
Yeah, he is. But, I mean, they went for that fourth down play, and he just fumbled the ball and didn't get it. It's just like, well, geez, who are you going to go with? Ewers or Manning? I mean, I don't know.
I don't like a two-quarterback system. Even if they just bring him in on occasion for a wildcat type of thing, I just do not like a two-quarterback system. And that's a Sarkisian thing. That guy does so many things.
Well, it's predictable.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much with Manning because he can actually throw the ball, but Michigan, every time they would bring Orgy in, it was like,
he's going to run
play.
it.
He's going to run it. So
They just stuff that thing.
not a fan of that.
What do you think? I mean, does defense win championships still? Do you think?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. The thing is, though, there's something to be said for Arizona State's type of offense, Oregon's offense. We got it on both sides of the ball. The thing is, if you score as much, so you think back to Chip Kelly's era, you score that much, your defense is on the field so often. I don't care how good they are. They're going to be gassed eventually.
Yep.
The thing that's different about what Dan Lanning is doing is there's depth there. So if you and we haven't scored as fast as we had in years past. I could see us tuning it up and really going and, hit quick hitter, and running some tempo. And I think we need to against Ohio State this second time around. We go out with the exact same game plan, jab, throw it over to the top. I think they've learned a few things since we played last time.
Yeah.
So I think this game could be very much about those quick hitters, run the score up. And, rely on some of that depth you have on defense.
I go back to the Big Ten championship game with Penn State. I mean, both of the Penn State and Ohio State, that was a defensive battle, and the offenses just were not clicking at all. And so then you've got the Big Ten championship game. Well, that thing was a stinking shootout. I mean, nobody could stop anybody, and that's exactly what the Ducks were doing offensively. They've just got, Tez Johnson going over the middle. I mean, the guy's just so doggone fast. So really, I think we're going to see that on both sides of the ball. I think this could be a stinking shootout. I don't know if the defenses, with all the changes, and we've already seen each other once, that this thing is going to really get crazy.
I tell you, Howard, too, was just as good in this playoff game as he was against the Ducks. Those are the best two games he played all year. What did he have, a handful of incompletions?
He did, but we got to get out to a break. So we're going to be back to the Salem Nissan Raining Ducks podcast right after this.
Let me ask you a question. Do you have knee, hip, back, or shoulder pain? Do you hurt just going up and down stairs or getting in and out of your car? What if I told you there was a solution? One that requires no surgery and no downtime.
I couldn't even run 10 steps, without having pain. Just feel results within days.
Contact us today and find out if regenerative medicine is right for you. This could be the first step towards a new and pain-free you.
And welcome back to the Capital Nissan Raining Ducks podcast, and available on 1430 KYKN. Believe it's going to be airing on Thursday. So, guys, there's just been a lot of chatter, a lot of crazy stuff coming out of the big dogs over at ESPN, how this thing's just a debacle. The right teams didn't get into the college football playoffs just based on what we saw just this past weekend. And I mean, shoot, I probably could have told them that the way they had this thing set up. Just, I mean, number one, you have home games, and number two, the teams that got the byes. Boise State and Arizona State, we just, they're way down in the college football playoff rankings. So I think we're seeing some crazy stuff that needs to be changed for next year, huh?
The problem is, I think they're focusing on the wrong thing. They're talking about the selection of the teams. And, most of it's skewed towards, hey, SEC teams should have been in there because they're better teams. Okay, granted, Indiana had an 11-1 record, but there were better teams. You can't say that if you lost 3 games.
Yeah.
If 3 teams were better than you on the field, you shouldn't be in there.
That's
I don't
right.
care. I don't think the problem is with the teams. The seeding is a little weird. And maybe the conference champion gets a home field advantage, if they're not in the top, 4 or 5.
Right.
Would those have been more competitive games if you saw, Arizona State play Indiana? Probably. Or if you saw Boise State play SMU? Those were probably, and then you got a chance to play one of these teams. But to go out there and again, it's ESPN saying it. The talking heads on ESPN and the SEC network, they're talking about this ad nauseum about how Indiana didn't belong. I think Indiana did belong, and who are you going to replace them with? I don't know that there's that many good teams. Everybody can have a mix-up where they lose one game, and maybe you lose another game on the road, because it's stinking hard to win on the road in college football. But to lose 3 times, come on now.
Yeah.
You lost your right to argue about that.
You play your way into the playoffs on Saturdays in the fall. That's where your resume is built. You lose to an Oklahoma or a Vanderbilt who aren't even ranked. You don't have a leg to stand on when you say, I deserve to be in the playoffs.
I need
you
a
don't,
definition
'cause
right
you
now.
lost.
Ab nauseum. Where did that come from? What the heck is ab nauseum?
Hey, look it up. I'm not a thesaurus over here.
Come on, ChatGPT, talk to me. Oh my gosh, ab nauseum, for crying out loud.
I'm pretty sure that they're going to make some changes just based on what everybody has said. I like your idea of the conference champions getting a bye. I think we've shown, or that we've seen over this past week, over Penn State had a couple of injuries to their defensive line where guys out for the playoffs. I believe Notre Dame had an injury as well. So there's why you want the bye, because that you're losing players. It's one less game you have to play. After the first round, reseed it. Just you go back to you reseed all the teams that have made it through the first 4 games, just like the NFL does. And you do it that way.
Before we get any further, I'd like to welcome the rest of Brandon to the broadcast here. We were missing half his head earlier, but a little change of hat, and he's back in the game.
He's right in it.
The other thing about the SEC that really that argument is, that Notre Dame Indiana game happened on Friday, right?
Right.
So you saw the immediate knee-jerk reaction, and Herbstreit was leading the charge on this, that they didn't physically belong, they didn't belong, whatever. But then his whole argument was they should have had another SEC team in there. Then you see Tennessee go and just be manhandled by Ohio State, and well, that's the 3rd best team from that conference playing the possibly 4th best team from the Big Ten. And you're like, okay, let's throw some more of that garbage in there. I mean, SEC isn't what the SEC used to be.
Not this year. And I don't think Georgia's all that good. Georgia has a great defense, but their offense struggled mightily.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see if what's his name, Gunner
Stockton.
Stockton, thank you very much. Gunner Jackson Stockton. We're gonna go that road.
Use the hyphen, yeah.
We'll use the hyphenation. But Absalom or whatever word you used before too. I don't even know what that is.
Ad nauseum. Come on, man.
Oh my gosh! But yeah, I think Herbstreit's off his rocker. I think the only reason he's saying
To
this
say
stuff,
something until you're nauseated about it.
yeah, I think it's ridiculous, and I really do. I think he's just trying to get ratings at this point because there's been so many blowouts, and you're trying to keep people engaged. Because I don't know why else would he say something like that unless he's being paid off by the SEC. I'm just going to come out and say it.
The ESPN and the SEC are one.
They're tight.
They're basically so that's revenue that's going out of their pocket. Because the games, they're not getting their viewers to watch the games. So money. It's all about money.
No, it is. And speaking of that, I mean, really got to thank Green Acres Landscape and GA at Home, as well as Advantage Heating and Air and Electrical, for their support of our podcast here. And 1430 KYKN is always appreciated. And yeah, so okay, we got games coming up, and I don't know. Do we see another blowout in our near future on any of these matchups coming up?
I believe the Boise State game will be a blowout.
You think Penn State's going to drill them?
Yep, I do.
I don't know. I think Boise State's going to bring it all out. I think they're going to mix and match and do all sorts of stuff. Penn State is just vanilla. It's just what they are. They don't do anything spectacular. They run right at you. If you can stop the run, can they stop Jonte? Because Boise State's got a really good offensive line.
They do.
They proved it against Oregon.
You know, we moved to neutral fields too, so you take most of that crowd noise out of the way. You know, that makes a huge difference, especially in these early games, and that's why I think you need those games to be a little more competitive. If you want to reseed, do some strange stuff, do that in those first games, the first 8 in there, and then we'll see how it hashes out afterwards. I don't know. Home games.
Yeah.
If we could have all these in Autzen, crown us national champions right now.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like the home games. I really wish that they would go away from home games and just have a venue now that we're 1 year in. I mean, now you've got you can decide. You can get those venues available for those first 4 games. And I think that's really the way that it should go after seeing the debacle that we just saw, because most of them were just not competitive.
You would have to really, really look at regional venues to do that with. Because,
Sure.
you think about those Ohio State fans, okay, so if they didn't have that home game and they had to travel to, the Orange Bowl for the first game, and then they're going to the Rose Bowl for the second game, and then they're going back to whatever it is in Atlanta for the championship.
You could make it in Indiana.
It's going to be tough for those fans. Well, therein lies the issue. Is okay now. If you're gonna have to match up teams regionally, so now we're bringing in a different variable too.
That's true,
okay, so
too.
now are we going to just do it pure seeding, or are we going to do it regionally and put people in a game where the fans can actually travel to? I mean, that's the hardest thing to me. And if you're the higher seed, you earned it.
So let me ask you this: why do we need to do a neutral site? Why play your best all year long to give up a home field advantage? Why does the number 1 team in the nation have to give that up? Doesn't happen anywhere else.
Great? Isn't it great to argue about all this stuff? I mean, you think about the BCS back in the day, people just incessantly argued about all the crap that was going on with that and the favoritism and all that.
There's always going to be
there's
arguing.
always going to be arguments, and that's what is so great. It gives us something to talk about here with these microphones in our face too.
The funny thing is, the committee thought they were going to eliminate all of it. And all it does is create more controversy, because now we have conference champions. Okay, now do we get rid
Now
of
you've
conference
got 8 other fan
championships?
bases squawking, going,
instead
we're
of
getting
only
screwed.
having 2 or 3 teams that deserve to be in it,
Right.
now you gotta, you put 12 in there. Now you got 12 more that say I should have been in there.
Right.
Well, what does that even mean anyway? I deserve it. Okay, based on what? Because you're in this conference? Okay, so if you're in, let's take the SEC for example. All right, so you've got 3 losses in the SEC. Well, what about the other teams in the SEC? I mean, do you have other 2 1-loss teams that should have been in? Possibly, but I mean, shoot, you've got Tennessee who just got blown out. We've been talking about that till we've been red in the face right now.
Yes.
And, I think the Big Ten right now is the best conference in the country right now.
I don't think there's any doubt about it.
I mean, top to bottom, maybe not, but I mean, still, there's competitive games. Look at Wisconsin. If they only had a quarterback, they probably would have gotten in the playoffs, because that guy could not do a doggone thing.
Yeah.
Especially when it came down to crunch time.
Well, it's the age-old argument with the Pac-12, right? Pac-12 teams would look great in out-of-conference games, and then they'd go play each other, and they just cannibalize the whole conference. SEC traditionally has been that way. You've had maybe 3-4 teams at the top: Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. This is really their first year back. They've kind of stunk it up the last 10, 20 years.
They've been
LSU.
super top heavy. I totally agree with that. They've been super top. You can't be as top heavy now because there's so much attrition through the portal.
Right.
But Alabama. I mean, golly, I can't get over this. You shouldn't have allowed Pavia and
Right.
Vanderbilt to come in there and,
Right.
and beat you on your home field. You shouldn't have only scored 3 points against Oklahoma and give up 30 to them and say, hey, I belong there. No, you don't.
100% and 0. So Herb Street, I don't know what planet you're on, but it's not this one. According to us here at Raining Ducks. And that only goes so far. We'll keep that on the West Coast, and you can have the East Coast. How's that? I don't even know. So, let's look at this matchup. Again, Ohio State Ducks, I think they're very evenly matched. I mean, there's so much talent receiver-wise, defensively, offensive lines, defensive lines, linebackers. I mean, the whole thing is they're both they're so similar.
So we'll see Jordan Birch in this game, which we did not see him in the last one.
Yep.
We'll see Trayshawn Holden,
Hopefully for the whole game.
For the whole game,
Hopefully it doesn't-
you know,
loogie on somebody.
when Igbenogson got that the interception that was called back. I was texting. I don't know if I texted you guys or my buddies or whatever. I was like, "Oh, it's the Spitty with the interception," but it was called back. Yeah, but I tell you what. Ohio State's down a couple of offensive linemen.
It didn't seem to hurt them.
They figured it out. I think that it hurt them against Michigan, and that's why they were in the position that they were. They finally gelled. They figured that out. I think they did. They made some adjustments there to make sure. So yes, and again, it's against Tennessee. You know, Midland SEC team.
I mean, Michigan, like we've talked about all year, they have 2 first-round draft picks on their defensive line. They have a stout defensive line. They're not.
Yeah,
pansies.
Ohio State laid an egg in that. It's easy to lose one game. You know, shouldn't have been at home.
I'll tell you that whoever
make 'em
wins
look
this
very
Rose Bowl game will be the national champion.
That's what everybody's saying. But
absolutely.
Feinbaum from ESPN, he doesn't think that either.
No,
I mean, no, he doesn't. He doesn't think that's necessarily the case, and he's arguing. You know,
Well,
another
Feinbaum,
argument.
didn't he say that it was going to be a Tennessee-Texas final?
Well,
or
he's
something
done,
like
so
that?
we can't believe a
come
word he
on
says.
now.
Tennessee, Georgia.
Tennessee, Georgia.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
what he
so
said?
it's all
I mean,
SEC.
come on now.
Well, there you go
Just-
again. So the bias continues. Wouldn't it be interesting if we had a Big Ten championship game, one way or another?
You know what's neat is I don't feel like I have to be a Big Ten apologist like I used to have to.
That's phenomenal, Terry.
Like I had to be with the Pac-12, you know, because those 4 teams deserve to be in there.
Yeah.
I think they have to do something with the schedule a little bit. With 18 teams in there, you've got to figure out some way to play some more top-tier talent. And that's where Indiana kind of lost it. Had they played a few teams in there somewhere and beat them, you know, they wouldn't have been facing the backlash that they are now. But gosh, it's just kind of fun being the best team out of the best conference.
Yeah,
Well, you're going to be down there
I will be.
at the Rose Bowl, so that's going to be great. And Jerry and I are going to just kind of keep a local presence. There you go.
Golly.
Go Ducks. Let's silence that thing. You know, there needs
Who
to be,
does that? Who?
There needs. I
There
thought
should be a rule or something.
I thought there was a prerequisite to these types of things. But what do you know, it's only Raining Ducks. It's not like we're going national, but who
Whack,
knows?
whack. I mean, that was. I think it was apropos for some reason. I don't know. I wish we'd have said it. Wish
Ad
we would've gone off at
nauseum,
the right
apropos.
time.
What's going on here?
Hey,
That is.
read the dictionary.
I need to expand my vocabulary. There's no doubt about that. Okay, Raining Ducks. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on KYKN. Appreciate our sponsors, Capital Nissan, Green Acres Landscape, Advantage Heating and Air. Have a great rest of your week, everybody.
Go Ducks.
Go Ducks.